Recording in progress.
Good morning.
Morning,
Marcel.
Chair.
Morning, Honorable Whip. Good morning, members.
Morning, Chairperson. Morning, all.
Good morning, Marcel.
Morning.
One morning to the Honorable Deputy Minister also. Marcel, can we quickly check in terms of our roll call? It's 2 minutes past 10.
Good morning again, Chairperson, Deputy Minister, members, colleagues. Chairperson, all members are in. We are waiting on Mr. Nsubi. He's currently joining. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning to all the members of the Select Committee, NCOP, Health and Social Services. Also, acknowledging the Honorable Deputy Minister. Thank you very much. And also, good morning to all the support staff. Also the department. Thank you very much. The meeting is officially opened. Without any delay, we have received the apology. We are waiting the member to join. We will not have a long meeting, I believe. So the department will take us through Before the department, I will give to the Honorable Deputy Minister just to make an input. And then after that, we will have the department to take us through in terms of the briefing on the Stats SA, and then all challenges that we are having, so that we look in terms of how do we move forward. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. You are welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for this opportunity. Let me convey my greetings to members of the Select Committee who are here, the Statistician General and the entire team of Statistics South Africa. Chairperson, the current configuration in the Stats Act number 6 of 1999 comprises the Minister, the Statistician General, and the Statistics Council. To just give a snapshot of the responsibilities of the key role players, the Minister approves the work program of Stats SA on advice of the Statistician General and the Statistics Council. The Minister also manages performance of the Statistician General and appoints the Statistics Council. The Statistician General executes the Statistics Act exercises and ensures independence, defends statistical methods and best practice. The Statistics Council safeguards official statistics, advises both ministers and the Statistician General, the Council, but the Council remains independent from Stats SA. So Stats SA started with the legislative reform process as far back as 2014 and followed all the required processes to get to this point. I must indicate, Chair, that the Statistics Amendment Bill seeks to amend Statistics Act with the aim emphasis on strengthening coordination in the country. This will be done through making provision for the development of the National Statistics System and its implementation, and the National Strategy for the Development of Statistics by the Statistician General. This will also be done by strengthening the provision, coordination, and enhancing collaboration amongst data producers and data users by creating an enabling environment for the production and consumption of quality statistics within the Republic. It will also be done through making provisions for the compliance with the South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework in production of statistics in the National Statistics System. And the Amendment Bill also seeks to strengthen data collection by proposing amendments to sections to Section 15.1 of the Principal Act by the deletion of the phrase other than a private dwelling. And given the fact that this discussion has already ensued at the level of the National Assembly, this will be one of the most contentious issues. And we hope that members will be able to apply their mind accordingly. And this deletion, Chair, is aimed to address the limitation faced by the Statistician General or any officer of the Statistics South Africa when carrying out his or her duties for statistical purposes in terms of this Act. Chairperson, the bill also makes provision for the establishment of statistic units by organs of state. Chair, the Statistics Amendment Bill has been long in the making, and its approval will result in an increase in the stock of official statistics. It will also result in the full implementation of the much-needed National Statistics System in the country, which will promote production and use of good quality statistics. Let me take this opportunity through you, Chair, to now hand over to the Statistician General to lead our presentation. I would have forgotten to tender the apology on behalf of the Minister who was in transit. She had intended to join this meeting at 10, but unfortunately there was a mix-up with her flight. She had to return back and forth. I hope that she will be able to join this meeting as it proceeds. I think.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Thank you very much for the input, greatly appreciated. And also to highlight in terms of the processes between the NA and the NCOP in terms of the amendment of section 15, which will be after the presentation, the committee will consider. Thank you very much. Let's then hand over to the statistician general. Thank you very much. You are welcome.
Thank you indeed, Chairperson, and let me thank honorable members for affording us the opportunity to present. And let me also thank the Deputy Minister for leading us throughout this process of the Statistics Amendment Bill, but also for handling the introduction, as well as the support, the unrelenting support that the Deputy Minister and the Minister do give to Stats SA. Chairperson, I want to talk to a few issues about the amendment bill. And firstly, I'll start with the journey that we have taken. And the journey starts with consultations that took place at national, provincial, and local levels to deal with these amendments on the Act. The issue that were looked at were comparisons of the Statistics Act with other domestic laws, as well as issues that relate to data privacy and access. There were also comparisons that, and in terms of domestic laws, that also looks at issues that premise themselves from the Constitution. There were comparisons that were made with other laws from other countries, and also to make sure that we adhere to the fundamental principles, the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics, as well as the African Charter on Statistics. There were study tours that were made to countries to observe the implementation of the statistics laws, both on the African front, looking at developing nations in the South Americas, as well as in Asia. The socio-economic impact assessment system process was completed. The Office of the Chief State Law Advisor process was undertaken. And indeed, the information regulator did conclude that even before the POPIA came into effect as regards processing of personal information, Stats SA had been adhering to issues of personal information in the way we uphold matters of confidentiality. This process has been long and coming, Chair, in that we started with a new strategic direction in 2010, and we started with implementation and drafting of the statistics regulations in 2011, all the way to 2014, where the Stats SA and Council, and the Deputy Minister has already spoken about Council being an independent body that advises both the Minister and the Statistician General. Most people do sometimes think they work for Stats SA. They are actually the South African Statistics Council, and they are selected from members of the public in their own standing, and from the academia, from organized labor, from organized business, from government, as well as members of civil society. Now, the review of the Act was taken then since 2014, all the way to 2015, 2016, but I'll touch largely in 2019, where the response came from the State Law Advisor. And indeed, there were disruptions more during the COVID years, but otherwise, as we talk now, we are following on parliamentary processes to have the bill enacted, and indeed it has already served at the National Assembly. Now, let us look at, and it has been debated as such. Now, let us look at the key amendments that we're talking about in the Stats Act, that is Statistics Act number 6 of 1999. We are looking at to delete, substitute, or insert new definitions and clauses to amend the provisions dealing with the powers and duties of the Statistician General, which include that the SG, instead of being the head of Stats SA, is that the Statistician General becomes the Statistician General of the Republic. It has always been subsumed, Chair, in that always the powers of the Statistician General encompass or are overarching in all matters statistics in the country, and whatever statistics get graduated to be official statistics, but it had never been properly qualified. And there are times when we see these limitations when the Statistician General tries and indicate that once you go in the area of official statistics, it has to be certified by the Statistician General, which is there in the current law before we even talk about the amendment. Amongst other things is to conduct the census every 10 years instead of every 5 years. Since 2001, so in 1996, we had the census. 2001, that was 5 years later, we had the census. And that's what the Act has been saying, that every 5 years. But we had gone to Cabinet to seek a special permission not to conduct the census every 5 years, because it was becoming expensive to the nation, but also becoming overbearing on other products of Stats SA. Stats SA, other than the census, has about 260 to 270 products. That's almost every day there's a product. But during census years, the organization was coming under a lot of pressure not to produce other products. It's also to make provisions for the development and implementation of the national statistics system and the national strategy for the development of statistics by the Statistician General. At the stage, the Statistician General deals with the strategy of Stats SA, and any other key producer include or put it in their strategy, but they are not referenced, even in areas like crime statistics, where we already have crime statistics, annual statistics of crime being official statistics. Even in areas where the causes of death that we take from the Department of Home Affairs, from the records that they produce, such issues remain with them. The census of commercial agriculture, if the Department of Agriculture hasn't asked for, included it in their strategy and asked for funding through Parliament, it cannot, the census of commercial agriculture cannot be conducted. To strengthen the coordination and enhance collaboration amongst data producers and data users by creating an enabling environment for the production and consumption of quality statistics within the Republic. That is to comply with the South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework, which Stats SA is responsible for, and to make sure that we access data required for official statistics from organs of the state, including trading entities and other producers. At the stage, we are limited largely to organs of the state. We do get, for purposes of measuring the economy, GDP, of course, we do get information from trading entities, but it takes a long time if you have refusals, especially from trading entities that have deep pockets to fight this within law. To make provision for the establishment of statistics units by organs of the state and submission of annual plans and annual statistical reports by organs of the state. This would eliminate duplications, Chair. At the stage, you could have a municipality, a province running and producing statistics, some of which purport themselves to be official statistics. And I must say, official statistics can only be released by the Statistician General or anyone delegated by the Statistician General. But when we do not have these statistical units submitting annual reports, and in some provinces, some departments, some municipalities, the statistical units are there, including in some extensions of different departments. When they don't submit their annual reports, the statistician general is not aware of such developments. And a good example is, let us imagine we had a PFMA, or we had everyone running their financial edifice in the country, and they don't have to report in line with the PFMA. Things would start to go south at some stage. So we need to strengthen data collection through proposing a clause to gain access to land and premises of individuals that is other than private dwellings. So what happens is that this is largely for updating our geographic frames, and we do use technologies. So when we update our geographic frames, we do use technology in the form of getting all the maps and every information that we need to have. But the moment we go to field, there are times, especially in back rooms, as you would find in Soweto, which emerge after you have the geographic frame. And you need to be there in the yard to understand and understand the developments that are there for purposes of statistical collections. And I'll give a good example. If you go to a back room in Soweto or in Mamelodi or in Khayelitsha, Langa, Nyanga and the like, or you go to a farm, you might not know if you meet the farmer at the gate or the person who owns the plot at the gate, whether it's in Soweto or on the farm. You may not know about other households that are there, be it farm workers, farm laborers, including those that set up informal settlements. So these geographic frames assist us, Chairperson, for purposes of our sampling procedures. But also, so in the main census, we count everyone. In sampling procedures, we need to know what is sustaining there. But also, it is to strengthen the veracity of our data collection. So in the past, we had to get people answering questions, and the Act was saying we have to access private dwellings. So we have removed that for purposes of largely issues of people that would not want us to access their private dwellings. So it's completely removed. That is number one. Number two, for purposes of privacy, as well as challenges that have been raised in relation to matters of crime that may be there, or people who purport themselves to be field workers and they are not. But in terms of doing a thorough work and inform the nation and not misinform the nation, we need to have access to parcels of land and the premises of individuals, and indeed to establish a statistical clearinghouse in order to promote the function and objectives of the National Statistics System. Chair, the National Statistics System that we already referred to in bullet point number 4 above, is not about StatsSA. It's about the entire system that may include the Reserve Bank, it may include SARS, it may include data that is collected and published by other departments, it may include data that may be published by private sector or private entities, trading entities, which may, even in the case where they go bankrupt, that such data is needed for purposes of planning by our nation. And indeed, we need to empower the minister to make the regulations in terms of moving forward in relation to any matters that have to do with statistics. At the stage, the minister cannot make regulations surrounding the Statistics Act. The minister can only approve the work program as presented by the Statistician General. So the impact of the revised Statistics Act on the statistics system is that we will retain the current configuration in terms of the key players. That is, we have the Minister, the Statistics Council, and the Statistician General. So we are not introducing any other player amongst the three key players that are referred to in the current Act. And we do not introduce a new body to administer the Act, as the Statistics Act is administered by the Statistician General. And indeed, it is drafted in such a way that it serves the coordination needs of the entire system of national statistics. And as such, Chair, I see the slides are now showing everywhere, Chairperson. But as such, the updates on the on the bill, Chairperson, the updates on the bill are that in October 2022, we approved the Statistics Amendment Bill, and in 2020 we submitted to Parliament. As we submitted to Parliament for purposes of processing. And as we do so, the Statistics Amendment Bill was submitted to Parliament by the Minister in the Presidency. And the bill was presented to the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in September 2023. Chairperson, what are the issues? The amendment bill was gazetted on the 6th of October 2023, and the written comments were received largely from the South African Reserve Bank. And the main issue about the South African Reserve Bank had to do with that they wanted to have access to enterprise level data on a more granular level from organs of the state, such as Stats SA, or data that was collected by Stats SA. That would cause us problems, Chairperson. The problems it would cause would be that members of the public would feel that they are reporting indirectly to the South African Reserve Bank and would not be able to uphold confidentiality on the issues that we already said that we would uphold confidentiality on every data that comes to us. Chairperson, the current practice is prescribed in Stats Act that between us and the statistics, the South African Reserve Bank, we do have arrangements through which we can share data that in a way that doesn't compromise confidentiality. And this is done in line with the MOU that ourselves and the Reserve Bank have signed, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me move forward and say that the bill was debated by the Portfolio Committee, and as this debated by the Portfolio Committee, input from the Portfolio Committee was incorporated, and indeed it was taken forward for Stats SA to deal with issues. Particularly, the main issue is a point that I was talking about, that the Amendment Act will allow Stats SA officials to access land and premises of individuals and business other than private dwellings. So we will not force ourselves to or insist that we want to enter private dwellings. When we arrive at the private dwelling, we can actually knock at the gate, and if a person prefers to answer questions from their garden, we will answer questions from the garden or from their gate. But when we want to have understanding of what is sustaining in such a land piece of premises, Stats SA officials should be allowed. And as I've given a good example of what we see with the back rooms that we find in Soweto, as well as a mushrooming of settlements, even within farming communities, some of which are informal settlements, which we have to measure all the time. Stats SA responded to all areas of concerns, and the amendment bill was sent to the National Assembly by the Portfolio Committee, and the amendment bill was debated in the National Assembly and sent to the NCOP for reasons of discussions today. Chairperson, the next slide says Ndihela Kwala, and it has a history, Chair, that when I was small growing up in the village, our mothers could not read and write. And because they could not read and write, they relied on us as their scribes to write letters on their behalf. They could not end a letter with "I love you" or "I miss you, my husband." The mother and father had to find a standard way to end a letter by saying Ndihela Kwala in Xitsonga, in Xivenda they would say Ndifelela Hanefo, in Sepedi they would say Kifetsa hona mo, in Setswana they would say Kifetsa hona fa, and in Sindebele they would say Ngiyathokoza. In IsiXhosa they would say Ngiceda khona apha ngomkhulu umbulelo, and in isiZulu they would say amaningi anginawo. Whereas in English and Afrikaans they would say I miss you or ek lief vir jou. And Chairperson, never and never again, Mandela once said, should we allow any section of our society be disadvantaged, even on matters or issues that matter the most to their heart, like love, that they even have to defer to some way of communication when we have information, including statistics, that we can use for planning for here and now and in the future. So, Chairperson, amaningyang now. The next slide is blank. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's Masuleka, statistician, Ndihela Kwala. Thank you so much. So greatly appreciated to end the presentation at a very high note. And once more, thank you very much to the statistician for a very brief presentation. And now, without any time wasted, we will give to the members for questions or clarities, inputs, and so that we craft our way forward. Are there any hands, Marcel? Do we have any hands?
I don't see any hands, Chairperson.
Okay. I think one for my side is to check and to appreciate the presentation and welcome the presentation, and to check on the matter that was also raised by highlighted by the Honorable Deputy Minister, and also a matter that came out now at the presentation around the process and the specific a matter on the entering of premises. I think that matter, if we can have a background, even if from the legal advice, to advise us on that matter as to what exactly aspire and how we will be able to move forward on that matter. I will leave that between the legal advisor and the statistician. Pumelele, are you here?
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you.
I was hoping the SG would actually come in first and give the committee the background as to maybe the challenges or difficulties that they've experienced, in addition to maybe just pointing out on the issues of the background dwellings and difficulty to access those places. Because we appreciate that even from the portfolio committee processes, this was a very contentious issue, to a point that Section 15 of the existing Act was felt as though with the amendment opening up to the private dwelling, which the initial Act had excluded, that private dwellings would not be accessed for observations or investigations, as the SG has indicated. But the proposed amendment is now seeking to have a broader open access. However, though that access in line with the right to privacy is protected by virtue that the existing Act is speaking to the warrant as well as the consent. So even if that access is enabled by Section 15, there are requirements and projections that must be followed prior to a person just accessing the private dwellings or business premises or any land where a person is not keen to offer just an open consent or allow the statistician general together with the officials for purposes of the Act, as well as for mainly the census. So I was thinking before maybe I could come in, if the SG may just bring in more to the question that the chairperson has raised, then I will speak to the actual provisions and the drafting matters that have arisen in terms of what the current B bill has, chairperson. That is the bill before your committee for consideration and briefing today.
Thank you very much, Phumelele, thank you very much. SG.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me mention that our biggest issue is not to violate the privacy of individuals. That is not the intention. But it is to make sure that whatever we report on as official statistics is solid. So I will give a good example, Chairperson, because it's easier to explain. A house in Soweto stands on a premises or a piece of land. It is a premises on its own. That house, if we arrive there and we want to collect information, we could have flown drones and aeroplanes to get the maps of that area. But by the time we arrive, there could have been 4 or 5 back rooms that we haven't captured when we were flying drones or we were flying the aeroplanes to capture the map. And if we stand at the gate and the owner says, you can't access my premises, we don't insist on accessing their house, but the land or where their house is standing. So if we don't go in and talk to them and engage them from there, what will happen is that households that are in the back rooms will be missed and we will not know about them. And it's not like members of the public are out there to mislead. They have never gone out there to mislead us. But there are times when in the process of work, they have forgotten or left out some information. Then if you look at the farming community, a farm may be having 12,000 hectares. And if it has 12,000 hectares, we do, for commercial agriculture purposes, get information from the bookkeepers of the farm. But when we collect data on households, our household surveys, especially for our social statistics, where we need to interview the people and ask them about their experiences, whether be it of services or whether we are dealing with issues of justice and the like. If a farmer is standing at the gate and we are he's answering questions on the gate, we will not know of structures, including adjacent structures that are nearer to the main homestead of the farm. And in this regard, we will miss out a lot of people. The Statistician General is responsible for all people within the borders of the Republic of South Africa. That includes undocumented migrants, because as we are talking now, they are using facilities in the form of water, electricity, ablution facilities. So in most cases, some of them will be kept back for any other reasons. And also in informal settlements, especially where they are starting up and there are no proper structures, if our field workers can only stand in whatever is called the gate, we will not be able to collect data. So we will not be able to update our geographic frame, and our sampling will start to not be representative of all settlement types, all types of dwellings and the like. And once we miss that, then we will not be reporting sufficiently. Having said that, Chairperson, then there is an issue of worries about crime. We don't just arrive at the gate, and I'll start with the gated communities that are there, largely in Gauteng and the Western Cape. We will talk to the estate manager and arrange times through which we can visit. When we arrive in a neighborhood where an Inkosi is leading, we go to a traditional leader's place. They will inform their Indunas. Sometimes they will call the Indunas, and the Indunas will inform community members that we are there. Most of our field workers are from the same communities, where we try and hire very closest from where we are working to cut even on cost. Actually, in the census, we hire strictly from where someone is staying. But in sample surveys, if we have sampled 2 or 3 settlements in one ward, we will get a person from within the ward and they can move around. So they may not be known in one settlement. The only way they can be known is through the traditional leader informing them. We work with the councillors in some cases, civic leaders, and sometimes we work with a community policing forum. So we always know in every neighborhood who is in authority, especially where there's also crime. There are cases where on the farming communities, we go to the nearest police station and the police will inform. If it's not so many farms, they will inform the farmers. But in the event where there are so many farmers, they make us work with the neighborhood watch. And I must admit, we have a good relationship with the farming community from all their associations. The Statistician General not only visits them and talk to them, they invite us to provide data to them because they use this data for trading and marketing from South Africa and beyond. And one of the things is that we should not disadvantage members of the public. We do note issues of crime and we try by all means to mitigate for them. Not crime caused by those who purport to be field workers, but even our own field workers who are exposed to crime, where a young woman who is a field worker arrives at a household and finds a person who wants to attack them. We also have cases as we talk of field workers who have been attacked by members of the households or their dogs. So we do want to protect on either side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, SG. I think that is a mouthful in terms of background that the committee had to understand as to how this process is unfolding. I will first give to the legal advisor so that we finalize this, and then I'll give them to the members. I've noticed, Honorable Baha, let we finish this, and then we give to the members. Can we come back to Phumelele?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. If perhaps the committee secretary can give me the sharing rights so that it can be easy for me to quickly explain in amplifying what the SG has explained and taking the members into confidence and consideration as to generally what could have been the issues that prompted them to make this suggestion. Chairperson, what I will take you through is the actual provision of the Act as the statistician has spoken to, and then can members see the green and red parts that I have highlighted on the system?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see.
you can see it.
A little bit enlarged if possible.
I hope I can, Chairperson.
If not, you may continue.
Is it better?
Yes, definitely better. That's it.
Okay, Chairperson.
All right.
What I have put up here is the actual provision that appears in the Principal Act, which the Statistician General has spoken to. And what the members have on the B-Bill version that was approved and passed by the National Assembly are the changes that the Statistician General spoke to, Chairperson. Amongst other things, it was for them to request that this part, which was an exclusion, the part that I will put in yellow, it was an exclusion in terms of the work that they need to do, and for purposes, as he pointed out, of making inquiries and observations to ensure that there is proper information that is captured for purposes of the Act and for purposes of releasing informative and quantitative statistics. Now, if this other than a private dwelling was excluded, then the issues that the SG has raised and pointed out, those are the issues that are taking place in private dwelling, because people are staying at the back rooms, people are staying within the farms, but when you come, information is only given about the people in the main house. So that is some of the issue that came with the concern of this word and of this phrase, Chairperson. And so what the bill sought to amend from the introduced bill by the ministry was to say this part needs to come out. But in the manner that the amendment was done and also got to be approved by the changes that were brought into the National Assembly and the Portfolio Committee. If you look at this paragraph, Chairperson, the paragraph 15.1a and paragraph 15b, there is a process first that for the purposes of making inquiries or observations necessary for achieving the purpose of this Act, the SG or any other officer of Statistics South Africa authorized by him or her may, it's discretionary, may enter on any land or premises. Then there was this exclusion. Of any organ of state, it's now beginning to list out who can be accessed, bearing in mind that any private dwelling is excluded, which means individual premises cannot be accessed. So it was access to any organ of state, business, or other organizations, and they would inspect anything thereon or therein. But in light of the constitutional right that is in the Bill of Rights and the Section 36 limitation exercise that is required, that is why the Principal Act has this A and B, that this enabling provision and power can only be conferred and exercised only if A, on the authority of a warrant issued in terms of subsection 2. And subsection 2 sets out the process that you get a warrant from a magistrate, a judge of the High Court. So it's going to be a further process in justice system that the SG and his officials or her officials will not only do it on their own. Alternatively, if it's not a warrant, you, the owner of a private dwelling or the organ of state or the business or organization, you will give your consent. So they cannot just barge in. But what happened with the change, Chairperson, if I can stop here now and present the B bill then, as it currently appears, and this is what the members then need to look into and do the correction. If you can see, Chairperson, at the beginning of the bill, there is a provision or a footnote that says whatever is on bold brackets like this and bolded, when we are amending a principal act, that comes out. And whatever is underlined, as you can see here, we have now said, from what I read in the principal act, the SG and his officials may access any land or premises of A, any individual, B, organ of state, C, business or other organization, and inspect anything thereon and or therein. What we see here now, Chairperson, recalling what I put up in terms of the principal act, it does give effect to what the SG and the portfolio committee approved and wanted done. But because of this phrasing that Section 15 of the Principal Act is hereby amended by the substitution in subsection 1 of the following. This means that the portion on the warrant and the consent, if this proposal were to go through as is, that portion which makes sure that the bill is constitutional in light of the right to privacy and the limitation clause, that means that portion, the paragraph A and B, would automatically and by default and incorrectly so come out. So the proposal, hence we are bringing this to the attention of the select committee, is that there be an amendment that the select committee, if so agreed, will then propose, which will be an amendment in a C-list processes once all the processes of the National Council of Provinces, including getting and involving the public to engage meaningfully on this issue by getting submissions. And unfortunately, because it's a Section 75, it will not necessarily be a process of the mandates from the provincial legislatures, but that engagement, one way or the other, will still happen so that the committee gets their inputs. So the proposal that we will bring to the committee will basically be speaking to that issue, Chairperson. I hope I did have it here. The proposal then will be speaking to that issue that if the committee so agrees to pass this, then the correction will bring in everything. What must come out will still come out, as that is in the square bolded bracket, and what must come in and what is already in the act would still be maintained. So in other words, we are bringing about a better drafting proposal so that nothing is taken out of the existing act, and that which the legislature, in this case being the select committee, is in agreement with and is agreeing with the department after hearing their briefing and explanation as to why this is necessary, that then the correct is effected and ensure that the system is not distracted by virtue of improper drafting, but the intention was clear. So the intention, even before the portfolio committee, was clear that this is what they wanted to achieve, in understanding and appreciating the challenges that the department had explained. And therefore, the change was supposed to look like this, but instead the underlining spoke to many things, which was not supposed to be the case. But that, unfortunately, is a process when we deal with various stakeholders within the chain and us as the support staff that is assisting the committee. Hence, it is a work that requires teamwork so that all the challenges and problems like this are picked up and corrected before a statutory enactment is done. So, Chairperson, that basically is the briefing in addition to what the department has given to the committee, which is supposed to look into clause 9 and make sure that it allays all the fears either from the public or the members themselves or any other issue that one may feel there is an impact or some serious confusion with the rights and the limitation of such rights in the Constitution, Chairperson. I hope it makes sense. And if I was as good as the SG, I would be speaking in all the languages. But Chairperson, that is my input to the committee, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Phumelele. Thank you so much. I think that gives us more clarity now. Then without any delay, let me again get, we have the background, we have the content for members to make their input. I have Honorable Baga. Any further hands from the members? Apology for any disturbance at my back. Honorable Baga. If there are any hands, Honorable Baga, you may come in.
Thank you, Chairperson. And let me also welcome the presentation. Chairperson, for me, it's just two questions of clarity. One is that the bill states that entities within the National Statistics System, other than organs of state, must enter into partnership agreements with the Statistician General. Now, my question on that is, which entities does Stats SA intend to partner with? And the second one, Chairperson, is more on the 10 or 5 to 10 or 10 to 5, sorry, year term that Statistics South Africa operates under. Because for me, Chairperson, is just to check what is the actual rationale. Because when I look at it, if you were supposed to be operating within a 5-year period, and you delay it somewhat for whatever reason to 10 years, doesn't it double up what needs to be done in the 5 years? I mean, yes, in the 5 years to 10 years. Because I'm saying this, Chairperson, that my assumption, which might be incorrect, is that stats in the country changes on a daily basis, and that there's more people, that are here today more than they were yesterday. Now, if we say that we now stretch our stats operation to 10 years, doesn't it double up what needs to be done or captured in the 5 years to 10 years, looking at the time period that is doubling up on how we were operating before? It's just a question of clarity, Chairperson. It might have been covered, but probably I did not capture it correctly, just to get a sense on the rationale between the 5 and the 10 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Baga. Thank you very much, Honorable Baga. Can we get further clarities? We will first deal with clarities and then have formal inputs. If those formal input, but we're dealing with clarities where members want to the SG and the legal advisor just to give us further inputs on clarities. Any further hands, Marcel?
No, Chairperson.
Okay, can we get, okay. It'll be between the SG and Phumelele on the clarity from Honorable Baga.
Chair, on the first question, if you would allow, I have my colleague Yandiswa Pechen Murudu, who would deal with, but I would deal more with the issue of the second question on the census. Yandi, are you ready to come in?
Yes, SJ. Good morning, Honorable Chair, DM, SG, honorable members and colleagues, on the question of which other entities we are looking to partner with, it will be producers of statistics in the private sector, because there's data that we use from the private sector for our publications. It will also be producers of statistics in civil society organizations, because they also have data that we need, and any other data producer. So those are the other entities that we'll be partnering with in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Yandi. Let me proceed, Chair, and say that a good example is the report, the Sustainable Development Indicators report, as the Sustainable Development Goals report, which throughout our work, we have been working with other producers, and we made sure that we qualify such data that they make available to us through our South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework, so that whatever we put on the SDG report has gotten some level of quality that the statistician general may be comfortable. But going further is that such partnerships would help strengthen the entire system of statistics beyond the work of StatsSA, and strengthen such entities in their collection and their wish to want to have delegations from the SG. Having said so, on the census, yes, we would say if we take a longer time before the census, the work would certainly be more. But what we do is that we have other products that come out of StatsSA. Every day there's a product that comes out of StatsSA. But as regards a complete count and be able to give the nation estimates or a true reflection of what is sustaining between the 10 years, between 2001 and 2011, we did what we call the community survey, which is a large-scale sample survey. Usually our sample surveys that we report on, be it quarterly labor force survey, general household survey, they are 30,000 households. That sample survey in 2006, 2007, it had 284,000 households, meaning that it had a lot more. It had almost 10 times what we collect at any given moment. The one that we did between 2011 and 2022, we had another one, a community survey, which had 1.5 million households, which is almost 10% of what you would get in the census. 1.5 million households is a lot, Chairperson. We are also planning between now, 2022, when we conducted the census, and the year 2032, to have a snapshot of the nation through another community survey, which we should conduct in the year 2027. And that should be sufficient enough to give us information to also complement other products that come out on a daily basis. It's because Census 2011 was about 3 billion. Census 2021, which later became 2022 because of COVID, our initial ask was 6 billion. We were given 3 billion. We did overspend on that anyway in the process of operation. So it cost us almost 4 billion. It's a lot of money when we look at other programs that our nation needs to drive. Census 2032, even with technology, there's always a view that technology, when you introduce technology, things are cheaper. But the first time you introduce technology, things start by being expensive. We know it with the arrival of cell phones in our country. Cell phones used to cost way 1995, 96, 10,000 rands, 14,000 rands. Today, cell phones are a lot more cheaper. It's the data that is much more expensive. So the point is that even with technology, it will cost us a lot more money. And rather, we complement it in the interim between 10 years and do something cheaper within the 5 years, while we look at a 10-year horizon as a gap. The other thing is other nations, we go through what we call 2010 round, 2020 round, where other nations of the world run their censuses every 10 years. And we want to be within that fold as is in line with the United Nations guidelines. Thanks.
If I may, Chairperson, with your permission.
Okay, you're welcome.
It's just one thing, Chairperson, and it edifies what Ms. Mbesheni from the Statistician General Office also added or pointed out to answer question 1. It is just to also point members to the fact that under clause 1 with the definitions, the entity within NSS is defined, and it means an organ of state and any organization, non-profit organization or business that produces or uses statistics or collects data. So understanding the question as it arose, it's a matter that was taken into account and defined for purposes of the bill and eventually the act once it will be enacted and processed through Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any further hands from the members? Honorable Baha, that was an old hand. I would want to. Honorable Baha, you coming back?
No, Chair, I was saying it was an old hand. I've dropped it.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me put it in a layman's language. The correction that is being brought to the Select Committee by the SG and the legal advisor give us legality around that. I believe it's a matter that it being a must that we correct that to avoid further implications. Honorable Chabaleng, I will beat with you now to avoid further or to avoid that the work of the SG to be at ease, to be able to enter premises. Just in a simple summary, that is how I understand it. And that is why then we as a Select Committee have to consider this so that going forward, that we, I will end there, Honorable Chabaleng and Honorable Nkosi, we had to look at how do we craft going forward. Honorable Chabaleng.
Chairperson, I was going to say that I think what we had is just enough for the hypothesis. I think we know what has transpired, and we have had the explanations actually how these omissions came into being, so that we support the report as it's presented by the department now, by the Statistician General for further processing. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chabaleng. Honorable Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to your good self, my colleagues, the department, as well as the support. I think, Honorable Chabaleng and your good self, you have covered me on the clause 15, if I'm not mistaken, regarding the access to the premises, that it needs to be amended and taken back to the NA for the concurrence and bring it back to the NCOP. But I would want to check with the legal advice or the department that if indeed you are doing that, because we must do that so that you can make the job of the statisticians and the field workers easy to enter in the premises. Are we going to be on the timeline of the bill for being passed by the right time, because we need to make sure that when we do that, we are still within the timelines of the processes. Thank you very much. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkosi. I think on that note and that part is first to thank the SG for the presentation, and also on highlighting challenges that occurred from the NA, and when the bill was referred to the NCOP, and now the NCOP to make that correction and then finish its process and send it back to the NA for concurrence. The Secretariat will assist us in terms of the scheduled program, as to how this process can be fast-tracked in terms of compliance, that we comply in terms of the process, but also looking at the finalization of this process before the election. Let me first check on that. Can we have the Secretariat, Marcel?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as I have previously explained to you, the committee will release an advert. The advert will be sent out today, calling for written submissions on the particular bill, Chair. We have selected the dates between the 12th of March to the 15th of April for our advert to run. It will run on all parliamentary social media platforms, Chair. From there, we will receive our written submissions and draw from those submissions, Chair, to see if there was any inputs from individuals in terms of the bill, Chair. We will meet on those, deliberate on those, as well as the amendment proposed by the legal advisor and the Stats South Africa regarding the presentation, Chair. And from there on, because it's a 75 bill, sorry for that, Chair, it's a Section 75 bill, we will then deliberate, and then that will lead us to the finalization of the bill, which will be done by the end of April, Chair, within the timeframes of when the bill can be finalized by the NCOP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Marcel. Honorable Nkosi, is it an old hand?
Yes, Chair, it's an old hand, but I think what Marcel is explaining, it's well accepted, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Marcel. What I also just want to make sure that we know that the process of the NCOP in terms of what aspired out of the presentation will be a specific in terms of the advert, that it is only on clause 15, so that we don't start the whole thing over. We did engage around submissions, but this one is a correction on that specific section. Yeah, I think that is it. And then any further inputs? In the absence of any further inputs, then that is the route that we will be following. And then getting this information yesterday, I have also checked with the NA on the program of the NA as to how this bill will be accommodated. There are confirmation that it will be able to be accommodated at the NA by May. So that is also a confirmation. So I think we have come to, on that note, come to the end of the meeting of the Select Committee, whereby we want to thank the Honorable Deputy Minister for attending this meeting, and also to thank the SG for the input on the presentation, and also to thank the legal advisor. Thank you very much to assist the committee in terms of legal aspects around the bill, to make sure that we have a bill that will be working for the community. Then And also to thank all the members and the support staff, and thank you very much. And I think we have come to the end of this meeting, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Siyabulela.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Siyabulela.
Danke, danko.
Thank you.